To our next interview, which is an equally important topic, inflation impact on retirement planning. Yesterday, the MBS released inflation numbers for the month of October, saying that headline inflation rose to 27.33%. Are we thinking about our retirement planning? That's what we should talk about next. Inyang Sami-Orungbe, the managing partner at Averti Professional Managers, is joining me right now. Hello, ma'am, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Nancy. Always a pleasure.
Likewise having you. Now, let's get started. You should have, because I can't see her yet. Can you see me?
Yes, I see you, Nancy.
Okay. So how big a threat is inflation? How big a threat is inflation, let alone rising inflation that we have right now? How big a threat does it pose to retirement savings and retirement planning? So there are two questions in one: retirement savings and retirement planning.
Thank you for the question, Nancy. I mean, it's for me, it's been such a topical issue because in my work with retirees, this has been a major concern for a lot of people. Some haven't even realized it until you bring it to their attention. Then they get to see that, oh my God, can my budget cover the plans I have made for my retirement? Because one of the things I always say is that, you know what, paint your retirement picture yourself. What are the things you want to do in your retirement? And then now create a budget, because that is what is going to support that plan that you have made. For some people, their budgets have been thrown totally out of whack because it's as if the goalpost is just changing. For many people, they have found themselves now plunged into a much lower standard of living. That was not the plan. At the time they retired, it seemed they were going to be okay in terms of what they had for feeding, transportation, healthcare, utility bills. Then all of a sudden, they found themselves in this situation. And for those who do not have income outside of their budget or whatever it is they had planned for, then it's going to be a major problem. And indeed, many retirees in Nigeria are struggling right now. And based on that, my counsel now for those who are planning to retire, you always have to assume the worst case when it comes to inflation, because, I mean, we're living in very precarious times. So whatever it is you think you want to do, make sure that you amplify it in so many quadruples so that regardless of what happens, you are in a stable place. It's been really tough for retirees, I must tell you, in Nigeria. It's people are feeding, I mean, standard of living has dropped. I get to talk to many of them quite so often, and it's a sad story, right? It's a sad story, but I mean, what do you do? Some have had to hope that their children will get them out of where they are. But you know what? Your children also need support. The system is not smiling on them either. There's unemployment. Some haven't even got jobs. And the same inflation you're suffering in retirement is the same thing they are suffering too, while working. So it's quite a precarious place.
So how should retirees now respond to inflation? Many of us are responding to inflation in different ways. I actually make short videos on my social media handles, and I've handled this topic in terms of, what to do to avoid, that this cost of living crisis can be lessened on you, which I know everybody should also have. But retirees are a bit different because they are not active as now. Though if you are still healthy, you can still make yourself active and get some maybe a bit passive income. But how can they respond to inflation right now vis-a-vis? That's for retirees. Then another question is, for those that are doing retirement planning now, of course, we have the contributory pension scheme, where, of course, PENCOM and we have PFAs and pension custodians. They are in charge of investing people's pension funds so that at the end of your service or retirement, you are giving money. How does that play out with inflation? Having in mind that what those people are also investing in is being eroded as a result of inflation.
Absolutely. You're so right, Nancy. So one for retirees, you know, as much as we say paint that picture that you've always wanted for a retirement, okay, now it's time to get a bit realistic because if no income, extra income is coming from anywhere, then you do have to cut down and drastically downsize on whatever lofty plans you have and now sort of face the basics. I mean, people plan to maybe retire to travel in their retirement and all that. If that cannot happen now, then surely that has to go so that you can feed well, you have a good roof over your head, you're able to give yourself good health care, because those are the key things that retirees need at this stage in their lives. If you're able to do that, then it's fine. I mean, also look at things like healthcare, for example. People, some people don't have any HMO cover. And the advice is always that you do not know in what way the health challenges will come. So just have that cover anyway, so that you have the freedom to walk into any health institution to get health care, whether your eyes, so God forbid that you need to have surgery, it would not come out of your pockets because you have paid something. So this is where, you know, health insurance comes in very useful, and bulk buying when it comes to food. I mean, the community of retirees, some of them get together and they're able to buy in bulk and share. Those things, as minute or as small as they appear, they at least help you save up on some things. Because what do you do when there's no extra income to augment? I mean, fuel for now, I mean, what sort of car are you riding? And not blessed enough maybe to buy a new car, you know, in the time that they retired. If your car is an issue, then perhaps this is the time to park it and now use public transportation. So there are quite a few things, you know, that retirees can do. It is quite a sad situation because I see that there really isn't much that you can do to, you know, sort of stay in that place that you had hoped that you stay in your retirement. For those who are yet to retire, yes, under the Pension Reform Act, you should have a retirement savings account, right? The agitation has been coming. I mean, is the word agitation now. You know, people have been saying, listen, you have the option of an additional voluntary contribution. So while you are working, if you can, take advantage of that, because that further augments what comes to you in form of pension when you retire. If you have a positive margin when you've done your budget of your assets and your liabilities, what is coming to you versus what you're going to be expending, if you have a positive margin, make sure you're saving enough to invest. The idea is that the focus mindset should be very, very much tuned to those years when you will not be working again. Sometimes it's difficult to grasp while you are working because, you know, there's just that thing about, oh, every month the salary comes in, everything appears hunky-dory. But now more than ever, I think a lot of attention has to be paid to that season when we step out of our career and we're not working. What is going to be our fallback? So pre-retirees have to be very focused on that and make sure they're putting things aside. And I talk about entrepreneurship in retirement because when you retire at 60, 60 is not old. You still have the energy to do quite a bit. So there should have been something, some vocation, some passion that can bring some extra income into your kitty for you to also use to, you know, manage yourself in retirement. So those are the things I believe that retirees and pre-retirees should be looking at as well.
Okay, let us explore a bit for those that are actively working now and are listening to you. What are the kind of things they should begin to do? We know that the economy is, you know, it's not smiling on anyone right now. And as we say now in Nigeria, that Nigeria is happening to all of us. Whether you are rich or poor, Nigeria is happening to all of us. But what can you say perhaps to young people that are actively working now? Because one thing that will come is that we'll all age and we'll all grow old. And I know the last time I spoke to you here, many seniors have that notion that my children are my retirement plan. But we also know that, yes, we also know that now in Nigeria, even at 60, even when you retire, you are still taking care of your children. Your children are not balanced yet. So, so what do we do even as young people that perhaps you're receiving like 50K, 60, 100,000, 200,000 naira as a salary, but you are not even within the structure that you can have a pension scheme? What do those categories of people do?
Okay, under the pension reform act, there's now what we call the micro pension scheme.
Yeah.
So regardless of what you are earning, there's something you can still be putting aside. And even if you're not in a structured environment, you work for yourself, the money comes once in a while. That is what the micro pension scheme is, meant to cover, so that you are not locked out of this entire pension scheme. And also begin to talk to a financial advisor, go to the banks, go to the asset management companies. Some of them have portfolios that you can bring as much as or as little as 5,000 a month, for example. Because the truth of the matter is that the longer you have to invest, the better off you are, because then the law of compounding of interest works in your favor. The people that are in a precarious situation are those that are a bit advanced in age, where it's now a race against time, where your retirement is staring you in the face and you are looking at what may come to you, and you are now panicking. And even for those, what I always say is that doing something is better than doing nothing, right? So if you have an investment portfolio, take cognizance of the fact that the financial advisor will ask you a lot of questions. You know what your aspirations are. They know your season of life, that you are a retiree. So, they will create a portfolio for you that aligns with your season of life for your time frame, right? So that is there. If you have the opportunity to invest in any portfolio that is dollar denominated, for example, by all means do. Because you are much better off there than a naira denominated portfolio. So those are the things I would advise for now.
Okay. Just as we end, because we have about 2 minutes to the end of this session, what are the complaints that you've normally gotten, at least since this, for the past 2 years, we've seen inflation rising consistently. What have your colleagues been telling you? I also know you're a retiree, but
yes,
you're a retiree that enjoy yourself. You'll be here tomorrow, you'll be there next tomorrow. I see you now. I see you, even though we don't get to talk. I see you. So what would be your advice to people that perhaps will retire soon? Because sometimes some people come to me and say, Nancy, I'll be retiring in 6 months. I'll be retiring in 1 year. I don't know what to do. And I'll be like, excuse me? And you're just coming to me like in 3 months' time, So what would you tell such people? And what are the complaints amongst your retiree colleagues? Just 1 minute to answer 2, then we leave.
Well, some of the agitations I'm seeing is, for example, how will I be able to provide for my healthcare based on this amount that I see is coming, my way? How can I still provide any sort of financial support to my children? Like you said, many of them, they are still, not balanced yet. Can I support them in retirement, based on what I see that, I'm going to be getting? Things like my fuel consumption, based on the current, subsidy removal. How am I going to fuel my car? If this car has an issue, what do I do? There are a lot of agitations, and people sometimes worry that, my investment portfolio, is it growing at all? Even my pension fund, is it growing? Because again, for the people that have retirement savings accounts, if your fund is not doing well with PFAA, the law allows you to now port to another
exactly.
PFAA. Yes, I tell them, get somebody to talk to you, and you are at liberty to do that. Some people wanted to retire to their villages, but the security situation in the country hasn't allowed them to contemplate that now, because they felt, this pot of money I'm going to be getting, at least if I'm retiring to the village, it can sustain me a bit better than if I stay in the city. But security threats have not allowed them to now contemplate that. So They're now stuck in the city and they are earning this meager amount. Some of them are stuck with cars that are not fuel efficient. They don't know how to come out of it. So my counsel usually is, listen, there is something you can do. And that is where because as a retirement coach, those are some of the things I then take people on. Let me understand what your passions are, because for another 10 years, you should still have the energy to start something and do something to get additional funds.
Okay, Mom, I think we'll leave it at that. You know, whenever I'm talking to you, I'm getting ha-ha moments in some other topics that we need to look at. And one that was coming to my mind is around what we've been seeing around the media space, even around Nollywood, and even some other spaces where people, become sick. And even while they were sick, they've used all, yes, and it's so unfortunate. You know, what lessons can we learn from that? But that will be a show for another day. Thank you very much for speaking with me this morning.
Thank you, Nancy. Always a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. All right, I've been speaking with Inyang Sami-Orungbe, who is the managing partner at Averti Professional Managers, and we've been looking at inflation impact on retirement savings as well as retirement planning. The cocoa of it is that just be putting some money aside, invest, diversify, look for areas that your money will be secure. You should do that no matter how young you are. Even if it's 1,000 naira every week, it is something. Don't say I don't have anything. Even if it's 500 naira a day, look for somewhere to invest it. That is what I will leave you with today. Thank you all for your company today as well as this week. I am Nancy Najibi, the best you can be, and be the change that you want to see. Bye now.